Okay, this is a water system to clean the water. Supply line comes in to a check valve to a pressure regulator that regulates the pressure to the home. Comes in to a diverter in order to repair this, to pull it out, to change. It's a bypass with 3 valves. First valve to feed the unit. Second valve to shut off the feed to the home. This one's to open up for bypass the whole system to change out this unit. Second check valve keeps the water from flowing back into the system. Over to the bypass, back to the water hammer, which stops air from getting into the system, creating water hammer. Once it reaches this point, it goes up to your supply or your supply wherever you want it. Also, on a discharge drain, to clean the system out before changing, you have to discharge it and the flow. You open this valve. Actually, this valve should be open because you have a control valve here, flow control valve. It's operated by a solenoid. You have to program the flow meter to open and close at certain times to discharge this system. It goes into the drain that's hooked up to the main drain under the house that's fed by a 2-inch drain with a clean out with a trap leading under the home to the main drain. On the bypass, this valve should be closed all the time until you get ready to service this unit. Once you service this unit, you would shut this valve off, and open this one. That allows your bypass to come in and bypass this unit. On this system, we have 3 different sizes. 3/4, as you see here, 1 inch, also 1.5 inches. All depends on your load at your home, your demand of water. It's an insert for a 2-inch pipe. All you do is insert it into the pipe and that's it. This is a SEDFLUSH water filter from WECO. To install this unit, you need copper male adapters, 2, Teflon tape on each of the male adapters. This is 3/4 inch copper pipe. Before you install the pipe, you have to sand the fitting, sand the pipe, flux the fitting and the pipe to clean any impurities on it before you solder. So after that, you would insert it like so on each side. You have inserted your lines. But before you solder anything, before you screw these in, solder this joint before you screw it into the unit because it's high heat and it may melt this housing. Supply side, feeding the unit, you have to have in a ball valve, a diverter, pressure regulator. That's what I'm getting ready to install now to show you how it's installed. First, you install the ball valve. Again, remember, you must sand every fitting. Even the ball valve has to be sanded, fluxed before you solder. To install the bypass behind the ball valve, the bypass is used to make the water go around the filter system so you can service it. So you would install a copper T with a diverter. Before the supply gets to the unit, you need a pressure regulator to regulate the pressure coming in. Usually the pressure on the meter coming from the city meter is about 85 pounds per square inch. You want it to get it down to at least 60 to 65. That's the purpose of the pressure regulator. 3/4 inch. Also, it needs to be sanded and fluxed before installing. Also, on the system is 2 check valves. One feeding supply before the unit and one after the unit. This is the feed line coming into the unit. You also want to support your system with scraps. Plastic scraps are the best against copper. When installing the system, make sure you check for flow. As you can see, arrows are all pointing as this direction. That's the direction of flow. As I stated earlier, there will be 2 check valves. One before the system and one after the system. Again, flow direction. There is an isolating valve that's located on the system on the back side to isolate this system for a bypass. This valve is to keep water from coming back into the system, to isolate the filter. Also on this system, there's a water hammer that needs to be installed to keep air from getting into the system and creating a banging noise. This unit is called a shock arrestor. This eliminates that process. You have to have this on that system. Again, you have to scrap the system supply line so that it won't be moved. The shock arrestor has threads, male threads into a female fitting. You have to put Teflon tape to get a good seal. And four. 4 times a wrap should be quite enough. Now I'm installing the bypass using 290s and a ball valve to isolate the system. Once the system has been installed for supply water, turn your attention towards the drain system. This is a solenoid valve. It opens and closes to discharge the system. It has a 1-inch feed line and a 1-inch discharge line. You have to reduce down to 1/2 inch with these bushings, which look like this. One side is 1/2 inch, and the other side is 1 inch. Before installing the bushings, be sure to wrap the threads with Teflon tape to secure no leaks. And to wrap your unit, you go clockwise. Four times is all you need. So now you insert it on the discharge side. And on the feed side, as I said, always the arrow on the feed side. So in other words, you would install it so. But before you can install it, there's an adapter. It also takes Teflon tape. And it inserts directly under the filter unit into a ball valve. Turning your attention back to the solenoid, making sure your flow is downwards. Control valve has a solenoid that's installed to the top of it. Clockwise. Be very careful. These are very delicate threads. Hand tight is all you need. Now it attaches to the control valve. And it goes into station number 1. And that's how you install your control valve for discharge. Also, on the unit, there is a air gap valve that installs underneath. Also, it takes Teflon tape. Once the air gap system drain line has been installed, it's time to attach the drain to under the home or wherever the drain is located. This is your drain to a solenoid valve to the filter that discharges under the home. To tie in under the home, you'll need a combi. You'll need a combi, a clean out, and a clean out plug. Also, you'll need a track. This all goes to under the home. This cap also takes Teflon tape. That completes your installation. Supply, bypass, to fixture, discharge drain.